Ambassador Minho walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. His shoes made soft sounds on the crystal floor. He had made this walk many times before. 50 years of walking into this room asking for fairness and leaving with nothing. The chamber was huge. It floated in space above a planet called Valoria Prime. Through the transparent walls, Minho could see stars and distant worlds. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in curved rows, looking down at the speaking floor where he now stood. Captain Ji-young stood near the entrance with the human security team. She wore her military uniform, dark blue with silver buttons. Her hand rested near her weapon, though she knew she would never use it here. She watched Minho walk forward alone. High Arbiter Veltharn sat on the highest seat. He was tall and thin, with purple skin and 4 arms. His species, the Velkari, had ruled the council for 300 years. He looked at Minho the way someone might look at an insect. "The human wishes to speak again," Veltharn announced. Several alien delegates laughed. The sound echoed through the chamber. Minho stopped at the speaking platform. He placed a small data device on the reader. "Honored Council," he began, his voice steady. "I come again to request full membership for Earth and her colonies. We have followed every rule. We have paid every fee. We have proven ourselves peaceful neighbors for 5 decades. More laughter rippled through the chamber. A delegate from the Mothran sector made a buzzing sound that translated as amusement. Another called out, "Peaceful? You war among yourselves even now." Minho's jaw tightened, but he continued. "That was 70 years ago. We have been united since then. We ask only for equal treatment, equal trade rights, equal protection under galactic law." Veltharn leaned forward. "You ask for equality? Your species barely learned to leave your own star system. You have been in space for less than 2 centuries. Some of us have civilizations older than your entire evolutionary history." He waved one hand dismissively. "You are provisional sentience. Be grateful we allow you to exist at all." Minho took a slow breath. "Then I must address a new matter. 3 of our colony worlds have been invaded. New Busan, with over 4 million human citizens, has been blockaded by Velkari military ships. Our people are being forced from their homes. We built that world. We terraform it with our own hands over 30 years. That world was designated for Velkari expansion," Veltharn said coldly. "Your presence there was always temporary. We are simply reclaiming what is ours." "We purchased that world legally," Minho said. His voice grew harder. "We have the contracts. We have the records. Contracts with primitives are not binding," another delegate called out. The chamber filled with agreement sounds from dozens of species. Captain Ji-young felt her hand curl into a fist. She had family on New Busan, her sister's 3 children. She forced herself to remain still. Minho stood silent for a long moment. Then he spoke again, but his tone had changed. It was quiet now, almost gentle. That scared Ji-young more than anger would have. "For 50 years, Minho said, humanity has come to this council in peace. We offered friendship. We offered our knowledge, our art, our culture. We asked only to be treated fairly, to be seen as equals." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates who had denied every human request for decades. "You have answered our courtesy with contempt. You have mocked our patience. You have stolen our worlds and laughed at our protests. Are you threatening us?" Veltharn asked, amusement in his voice. "No," Minho said softly. "I am informing you. Humanity tried diplomacy. We believed in the power of words, of law, of civilization. You have taught us that you do not value these things. You understand only power." He picked up his data device. "Earth recalls all diplomatic staff immediately. All alien nationals in human territory have 48 hours to leave. After that, humanity considers itself at war with the Galactic Council and any species that supports it." The chamber erupted in laughter. It was the loudest sound Ji-young had ever heard in this place. They thought it was a joke. A weak species making empty threats. Veltharn wiped tears from his eyes. "The humans declare war. How amusing. What will you do, throw rocks at our starships?" Minho walked toward the exit. As he passed Ji-young, he whispered, "Signal the fleet. Operation Courtesy's End is approved." Ji-young felt ice run through her veins. The fleet. The secret fleet that didn't officially exist. The ships humanity had been building in the dark places of the solar system for 30 years. As they left the chamber, the laughter followed them. The aliens thought they had won. They thought humanity was retreating in shame once again. They would learn the truth soon enough. Courtesy was over, and humanity had been preparing for this day since the very first time they had been mocked in this chamber. The galaxy was about to discover what humans were really capable of when they stopped being polite. The war room in Geneva was buried 3 kilometers underground. Fleet Admiral Hyunwoo sat at the head of a long metal table. Around him sat the leaders of Earth's military forces. They had been waiting for this moment for 3 decades. General Do-hyun spoke first. The council laughed at us. They always do. Let them laugh, Admiral Hyunwoo said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard as stone. Director Minji, what is the status of our assets? Director Minji stood up. She was the head of Earth's intelligence network. For 30 years, she had been gathering information on every species in the galaxy, every weakness, every secret. All data is compiled. We know their ship designs. We know their weapon systems. We know their tactics. Most importantly, we know they have not improved their military technology in over a century. They have been so dominant that they became lazy. And our status? Admiral Hyunwoo asked. A new voice answered. Dr. Sora walked to the front of the room. She was small and quiet, but she had led the most important project in human history. The Black Horizon project is complete, Admiral. All systems are operational. She pressed a button and holographic displays filled the air above the table. Images of weapons and ships rotated slowly. For 30 years, while they treated us like children, we were building, learning, creating. The first image showed a torpedo, sleek and dark. Singularity torpedoes. Each one creates a controlled micro-black hole on impact. It exists for only 3 seconds, but in that time it tears apart anything within 200 meters. Their shields cannot stop it because it is not energy or matter. It is gravity itself. Gasps came from some of the officers who had not been told the full details before. Dr. Sora continued. Quantum displacement drives. Our ships can teleport short distances during combat. Not far, only about 20 kilometers at a time, but in a battle that is enough. We can appear behind enemy ships, beside them, above them. They will not be able to predict our movements. Another image appeared. This one showed human pilots connected to ships through neural links, neural combat networks. Our pilots' minds are linked directly to artificial intelligence systems. They can think and the ship responds instantly. No delay, no waiting for controls to react. Human intuition combined with computer speed. And finally, Dr. Sora said, her voice growing stronger. Fusion lance batteries. We studied their shields for decades. We found the frequency where they are weakest. Our lances can pierce any shield technology currently used by the Council species. Their armor will not save them. Admiral Hyunwoo stood up. He walked to the holographic display and looked at the images of their secret weapons. How many ships? 3,000 warships, Dr. Sora answered. Built in facilities on the far side of Luna where their satellites could not see. Built inside Saturn's rings where the radiation hit our construction. Built in deep space stations that appear to be simple mining operations. We have carriers, destroyers, frigates, and dreadnoughts, all equipped with technology they do not know exists. General Do-hyun smiled for the first time. They think we are primitive. They think we fight with missiles and basic lasers. They think we are weak because we chose peace, Director Minji added. They never understood that we were studying them. Every insult, every denied request, every time they laughed at us, we were learning. Admiral Hyunwoo turned to face the officers. Humanity has always been good at war. We nearly destroyed ourselves with it centuries ago. That is why we chose peace when we reached the stars. We wanted to be better than our violent past. His voice grew harder, but they mistook our choice for inability. They thought because we did not want to fight, we could not fight. They forgot that a species capable of great peace is also capable of great violence. He pressed his hand on the table. A map of the galaxy appeared, with human territory marked in blue and council territory in red. Red covered most of the map. Blue was only a small cluster of stars. They took New Busan, 4 million of our people. They will use this as a test. If we do nothing, they will take more worlds. They will keep taking until we have nothing left. Admiral Hyunwoo pointed at New Busan on the map. We start here. We show them what happens when humanity stops being polite. Operation Courtesy's End, General Do-hyun said. Operation Courtesy's End. The others repeated. Dr. Sora spoke again. Admiral, once we reveal these weapons, we cannot take it back. The galaxy will know what we are capable of. Some species might fear us. Some might hate us. They already treat us with contempt, Admiral Hyunwoo said. I prefer fear to mockery. I prefer respect to their laughter. And if some hate us, he looked around the room, then they will hate us while leaving our worlds alone. They will hate us while treating our diplomats with respect. They will hate us while following the laws they forced us to obey. He pressed another button. Orders began transmitting across space to ships hidden in the dark. Ships that had been waiting in silence for years. Ships crewed by men and women who had trained in secret, who had sacrificed normal lives to be ready for this moment. Send the message to all ship commanders, Admiral Hyunwoo ordered. Humanity tried courtesy. Humanity tried diplomacy. Humanity tried peace. They answered with theft and humiliation. Now they will learn what we truly are. We are not primitive. We are not weak. We are humans. And when you push humans too far, we push back hard enough to reshape the galaxy. The officers saluted and left to their stations. In hours, the fleet would begin moving. In days, the galaxy would see weapons they could not imagine. In weeks, the Galactic Council would fall. Director Minji stayed behind. Admiral, are we sure about this? Once we start, we cannot stop. They started this when they decided we were lesser beings, Admiral Hyunwoo said quietly. We are simply finishing it. And when it is over, they will never mock humanity again. The Valkyrie fleet arrived at New Busan like conquerors. 300 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and surrounded the colony world. Admiral Kreshtar commanded the fleet from his flagship, a massive vessel called the Dominant Voice. He looked at the small blue and green world below and smiled with satisfaction. On the surface, Governor Young-ho stood in the planetary command center. Warning sirens blared across every city. His staff shouted reports at him from every direction. The Valkyrie fleet was demanding immediate surrender. Get the civilians to the shelters, Young-ho ordered. His voice was steady despite his fear. Start evacuating children and elderly to the underground facilities. We need to buy time. Time for what? His deputy asked. Earth is weeks away. No help is coming. Young-ho looked at the communication screen. A message waited there, sent on secret channels hours ago. It had only 2 words, hold on. Just do as I say, Young-ho told his staff. And trust our people. In orbit, Admiral Kreshtar grew impatient. The humans were not responding to his surrender demands. He decided to give them motivation. Target their power plants, he ordered. Use the plasma cannons. Show them we are serious. Blue bolts of energy shot down from the Valkyrie ships. They struck 3 power facilities on the surface. Explosions lit up the colony's northern hemisphere. Thousands of humans lost power. Some lost their lives. Governor Young-ho watched the destruction on his monitors. His hands gripped the edge of his desk until his knuckles turned white. Send the message, he said quietly. Tell them the Valkyrie fired on civilians. In space, far beyond the range of Valkyrie sensors, something waited in the dark. Captain Ji-young sat in the command chair of the stealth carrier Silent Thunder. Around her ship, 50 more warships hung in the silence of space. They had been there for 2 days waiting for the Valkyrie to arrive. Captain, her sensor officer reported, the Valkyrie have fired on the surface. Civilian casualties confirmed. Ji-young felt cold rage flow through her. Her sister was down there. Her sister's children. She had joined the military to protect them. Now she would fulfill that purpose. All ships, she said into the fleet communication channel. Decloak. Attack pattern Omega. No survivors. The Silent Thunder and her sister ships suddenly appeared on Valkyrie sensors, but they were not at a safe distance as military doctrine suggested. They were inside the Valkyrie formation. The humans had teleported directly into the middle of the enemy fleet, using their quantum displacement drives. Admiral Kreshtar stared at his displays in confusion. Where did they come from? How did they get so close? He never got his answer. The first singularity torpedo struck his flagship's port side. For 3 seconds, a tiny black hole existed where the impact occurred. It pulled in metal equipment and crew members. When it vanished, a massive hole went straight through the ship. The Dominant Voice began to break apart. Kreshtar grabbed his chair as the gravity failed. Through his viewport, he saw human ships moving in ways that should not be possible. They appeared, fired, and vanished, only to reappear somewhere else. Lieutenant Hana led her fighter squadron through the chaos. Her small craft was connected to her mind through the neural combat network. When she thought about dodging, the ship dodged. When she saw a target, the weapons fired before she could even consciously decide to shoot. It felt like the fighter was part of her body. She destroyed 3 Valkyrie cruisers in the first 10 minutes. Her squadron destroyed 30 more. The Valkyrie pilots could not match the speed of human thought combined with computer precision. The battle was not like battles of the past. There were no long-range duels, no strategic formations. The humans appeared at point-blank range, fired weapons the Valkyrie had never seen, and vanished before return fire could strike them. The fusion lances cut through Valkyrie shields as if they were not there at all. Captain Ji-young watched the battle displays with cold satisfaction. Target their command ships first, then their carriers, then everything else. In 47 minutes the battle was over. 240 Valkyrie ships were destroyed. The rest were burning wrecks drifting in space. Only 12 ships remained capable of movement and they were trying to flee. Admiral Kreshitar survived, though his flagship was dead in space. He sent a transmission on all frequencies. "We surrender." "Stop firing." "We surrender." Captain Ji-young received the message. Her communication officer looked at her hopefully. "Captain, they are surrendering. According to galactic law, we must accept." Ji-young thought about the power plants the Valkyrie had destroyed. She thought about the civilians killed in those explosions. She thought about 50 years of humanity being treated like animals. She thought about her sister's face when they had said goodbye, not knowing if they would ever meet again. "According to galactic law," Ji-young said. "The same law that allowed them to steal our world? The same law that denied us basic rights for 50 years? She turned to her weapons officer. "No surrender today, only justice. Destroy them all." The remaining Valkyrie ships died quickly. Some tried to fight. Some tried to run. None escaped. When it was over, 300 Valkyrie warships had become 300 clouds of debris. Governor Young-ho watched from the surface as the orbital space cleared. The Valkyrie were gone. Human ships took positions above his world. His communication system received a message from Captain Ji-young. "New Busan is secure, Governor. The colony is safe. No alien will threaten our people again." Young-ho closed his eyes and felt tears on his cheeks. They had held on, and help had come. Across the galaxy, the news of the Battle of New Busan spread like fire. Recordings of the battle reached every species within hours. They watched in disbelief as human ships used technology that should not exist. They saw a fleet 3 times larger than the human force destroyed in less than an hour. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. High Arbiter Veltharn demanded answers. "How is this possible? Our intelligence said the humans had only basic ships." "Our intelligence was wrong," an advisor said quietly. "They have been hiding their true capabilities for decades. They were never weak. They were waiting." Veltharn felt fear for the first time in his long life. If humans could do this to the Valkyrie fleet, what could they do to the Council itself? The answer came in a transmission that reached every communication system in the galaxy. It was Ambassador Minho's voice, calm and clear. "For 50 years we asked for peace. You gave us war. For 50 years we offered friendship. You gave us mockery. For 50 years we sought fairness. You gave us theft. Now we offer you something different. We offer you a glimpse of what humanity truly is when courtesy ends. This is not the end of our response. This is the beginning. Every species that wronged us will answer for it. Every world stolen will be returned. Every insult will be repaid. The galaxy wanted to see what humans are capable of. Now you will learn." Fleet Admiral Hyunwoo stood in the command center beneath Geneva, watching displays that showed 47 different star systems. In each system, human fleets prepared to attack. This would be the largest military operation in human history. "All fleet commanders report ready," an officer announced. "Waiting for your order, sir." Hyunwoo took a deep breath. Once he gave this order, there would be no turning back. Thousands would die, perhaps millions. But he thought about New Busan, about all the human worlds threatened, about 50 years of humiliation. "Execute Operation Cascade. All fleets engage." Across the galaxy, human ships appeared at 47 worlds simultaneously. The Galactic Council's member species had no warning. Their sensors showed empty space one moment, then human warships the next. Captain Jinwoo commanded the assault carrier Righteous Fury. His target was Valkyrie Prime, the homeworld of the species that had mocked humanity the longest. 200 human ships faced orbital defenses that had protected the planet for 3 centuries. "They are powering up their defense platforms," Jinwoo's tactical officer reported. Count shows 86 platforms, each with enough firepower to destroy a city. Use quantum displacement, Jinwoo ordered calmly. Jump directly past the platforms. All ships focus on the planetary shield generators. The human fleet vanished from the outer orbit and appeared 10,000 kilometers closer to the planet. The defense platforms fired at empty space, missing completely. By the time they adjusted their targeting, human fusion lances had destroyed half of them. On Valkyrie Prime, alarms screamed across the capital city. Emperor Thaknor rushed to his war room deep beneath the palace. His generals shouted conflicting reports at him. The humans were everywhere. Their weapons were impossible. The defense platforms were falling. How did they get past our defenses? The Emperor demanded. They teleport, Your Majesty, a general said, his voice shaking. Our weapons cannot track them. They appear, they shoot, they vanish. Captain Jinwoo watched the planetary shields collapse. Launch the landing craft. Get our Marines on the ground. Target the palace district. Within 3 hours, human soldiers walked through the streets of the Valkyrie capital. The local military tried to fight but found themselves outmatched. Human armor was stronger, human weapons more accurate, and human tactics more flexible. The Valkyrie had not fought a real war in a century. They had forgotten how. Commander Isul led a special operations team directly into the palace through underground tunnels. Her 12 soldiers moved silently through corridors filled with guards. The neural combat networks made them move like one organism, each soldier knowing exactly where the others were without speaking. They reached Emperor Thaknor's war room in 20 minutes. Isul placed a small device on the door. It cut through the metal silently, creating an entrance. Her team entered with weapons ready. The Emperor sat in his chair, surrounded by guards. He looked at the human soldiers with a mix of fear and disbelief. You dare invade the Emperor's own palace? You dared to steal our worlds, Isul said simply. You dared to mock our diplomats. You dared to attack our civilians. Now you face the consequences. She gestured to the door. Your planet is secure. Your orbital defenses are destroyed. Your military has surrendered. You have one choice. Surrender now, or we will continue until there is nothing left to surrender. The Emperor looked at his guards. They made no move to fight. They knew they would die in seconds if they tried. Slowly, the Emperor stood and removed the crown from his head. The Valkyrie Empire surrenders to humanity. Far across the galaxy, another battle raged. In the Crimson Nebula, a massive Galactic Council fleet waited to ambush human ships. High Commander Zekthul commanded 800 warships, the largest military force the Council had gathered in decades. He had chosen this location carefully. The nebula interfered with sensors and communications. The humans would be blind and confused. Human ships detected, his sensor officer reported. Count shows 200 vessels approaching. Zekthul smiled. 4-to-1 odds in his favor. Wait until they are deep in the nebula. Then we strike from all sides. The human fleet entered the nebula slowly. The Council ships remained hidden, waiting. When the humans reached the center, Zekthul gave the order. Attack! All ships engage! 800 ships opened fire at once. The nebula lit up with weapons fire. It seemed impossible that any human ship could survive. But then something strange happened. The human ships did not scatter in panic. They did not try to flee. Instead, they moved together with perfect coordination. The neural combat networks that connected human crews made them react as one mind. They saw the ambush coming through subtle sensor readings. They adjusted their formation before the first shots even fired. They knew exactly where each enemy ship was, even through the nebula's interference. Admiral Hyunwoo had anticipated this ambush. Human intelligence had intercepted Council communications. The humans had walked into the trap deliberately, ready to turn it back on their attackers. The human fleet split into small groups, each one attacking a different section of the Council formation. They used their quantum drives to appear directly beside enemy ships, too close for the large Council vessels to effectively target them. It was like fighting with a knife in a fistfight. The smaller, faster opponent had all the advantages. Commander Zekthul watched in horror as his fleet fell apart. In 30 minutes, 600 of his ships were destroyed or disabled. The humans had lost only 34 vessels. It was not a battle. It was a massacre. All ships retreat, Zekthul ordered. Fall back to Council space. But the human ships were faster. They chased down the fleeing vessels and destroyed them one by one. When the battle ended, only 3 Council ships escaped. Zekthal was not on any of them. His flagship had been cut in half by a fusion lance. Commander Isolde and her special operations teams hit 15 different military installations across Council space in 1 week. They destroyed shipyards where new vessels were being built. They sabotaged weapons depots. They captured supply stations. Each mission was surgical and precise. The Council could not protect everything, and the humans seemed to know exactly where to strike. Back at Earth, Director Minji reviewed the reports. In 1 week, humanity had captured or destroyed more than half of the Council's military capability. 47 star systems were under human control or occupation. Member species were beginning to panic. Some species are requesting separate peace agreements, Minji reported to Admiral Hyunwoo. They want to surrender individually rather than as part of the Council. Let them, Hyunwoo said. The Council kept them in line through fear. Now they fear us more. The Council's authority is breaking. High Arbiter Veltharn sat in the Council chamber, but it was nearly empty now. Most delegates had fled back to their homeworlds. Those who remained looked terrified. Reports came in every hour of new human victories, new occupied worlds, new species surrendering. Veltharn sent a transmission directly to Earth. His voice, once so full of arrogance, now shook. We request negotiations. We will discuss terms. Please stop the attacks. Ambassador Minho received the transmission. He remembered standing in this same chamber just weeks ago, being laughed at, being mocked. He remembered the contempt in Veltharn's voice when he called humans primitive. When we asked for peace, you laughed, Minho said in his reply. When we offered friendship, you mocked us. When we sought fairness, you stole our worlds. Now you want to negotiate? He paused. Very well. Here are our terms. Unconditional surrender, complete disarmament, reparations for all damages, recognition of human sovereignty over all disputed territories, and the dissolution of the Galactic Council. These terms are not negotiable. You have 72 hours to accept. If you refuse, we will continue until you have nothing left to surrender. Veltharn listened to the terms with growing despair. Everything they had built for centuries destroyed in weeks, all because they had underestimated one species, all because they had mistaken patience for weakness. The galaxy would never make that mistake again. 3 months after the war began, Ambassador Minho sat in what used to be the Galactic Council chamber, but now it was something different. Human flags hung where Council banners once displayed. Human soldiers stood guard at every entrance. The seats where alien delegates once mocked humanity now stood empty. Outside, Valoria Prime looked different too. Human ships patrolled the skies. Human administrators worked in government buildings. The planet that had been the center of galactic power was now under military occupation. Director Minji entered carrying a data pad. Ambassador, the count is complete. 40% of former Council territory is now under human control. Another 30% has surrendered and awaits our peacekeeping forces. The remaining 30% is still negotiating terms. Minho nodded slowly. He looked tired. Winning a war was one thing. Managing the peace afterward was much harder. What about the Velkari? The Empire is dissolved as you ordered. We have divided their space into 12 zones. Each zone has local government under human oversight. They are demilitarized. No weapons, no warships, no military of any kind. They can have police for civilian protection, nothing more. And the other species that enforce the embargoes against us. Minji scrolled through her data. They are paying reparations as agreed. We have also placed human trade inspectors on their worlds. They cannot charge us unfair prices anymore. They cannot block our ships. They must follow the same laws they tried to force on us. She paused. Some are complaining that it is harsh. It is justice, Minho said firmly. For 50 years they cheated us in trade. They charged us triple prices while paying us a fraction of value for our goods. Now they will learn to trade fairly. A young officer entered. Sir, Envoy Thelzian from the former council is here. He requests to speak with you. Send him in. Thelzian entered slowly. He was old, his scales dull with age. He had been a minor council member, one of the few who had sometimes voted for human petitions. Now he represented what little remained of the council's former authority. Ambassador Minho, Thelzian said, bowing his head, I come to discuss the peace terms. The terms are not negotiable, Minho said. I made that clear. I understand. But I must ask, what is your intention? Do you mean to rule the galaxy as we once did? Do you seek to replace our tyranny with your own? Minho was quiet for a long moment. It was a fair question. What did humanity want? Revenge? Power? Domination? We want something simple, Minho finally said. We want to be left alone. We want our worlds to be safe. We want our people to trade freely and fairly. We want our diplomats to be respected, not mocked. We want our children to grow up without fear that some alien empire will take their homes. He looked directly at Thelzian. We do not want to rule you. We want you to never again think you can rule us. Then why the occupation? Why the military governors? Because you need to learn, Minho said. For centuries you have believed that might makes right. That strong species can do whatever they want to weak ones. You need to see what it feels like to be on the other side. To have others control your laws, your trade, your future. Maybe then you will understand why it was wrong. Thelzian bowed his head again. And when we have learned this lesson? What then? Then we will see, Minho said. Perhaps we can build something new together. Something better than what existed before. On the other side of the galaxy, Governor Yuna walked through the streets of an occupied city on the planet Throne. The Throne people had been one of the species most vocal in demanding human exclusion from the Council. Now their world was under human control. Yuna stopped at a market where Throne citizens sold goods. She watched a human soldier buying fruit from a Throne vendor. They struggled to communicate using hand gestures and simple words. But they were trying. That was important. Governor, her aide said nervously, should our soldiers be fraternizing with the local population? They should be treating them with respect, Yuna said. We are not here to punish ordinary people. They did not make the decisions that led to war. Their leaders did. She had issued orders to all human forces on occupied worlds. Treat civilians fairly. Pay for goods, do not steal. Help rebuild damaged infrastructure. Protect local citizens from crime. It was not always easy. Some soldiers wanted revenge for fallen comrades. Some locals hated their occupiers. But slowly, carefully, understanding began to grow. A Throne child approached one of Yuna's guards. The soldier tensed, hand moving toward his weapon, but the child only held out a flower, one of the blue blooms that grew wild on Throne. The soldier looked at Yuna, uncertain what to do. Take it, Yuna said softly. Say thank you. The soldier accepted the flower. Thank you, he said in careful Throne language. The child smiled and ran back to his mother. Yuna felt hope for the first time since the war began. If a soldier and a child could bridge the gap, perhaps entire civilizations could too. Back on Earth, the human population celebrated victory, but not everyone was happy. Protests formed in major cities. People carried signs demanding an end to the occupation. We fought for freedom, not empire, they chanted. Admiral Hyunwoo watched the protests on news feeds. They are right to question us, he said to his staff. We must question ourselves. Are we becoming what we hated? We are ensuring it never happens again, General Do-Yun argued. The occupation is necessary. Is it? Hyunwoo asked. Or are we simply afraid to let go? Afraid that if we give them back their freedom, they will attack us again? Director Minji spoke carefully. The occupation has a purpose, but it should not be permanent. We should set a timeline, 5 years, 10, long enough to reform their governments, establish fair laws, and build trust. Then we return sovereignty. Hyunwoo considered this. Ambassador Minho, what do you think? Minho's face appeared on the communication screen from Valoria Prime. I think we must decide what kind of species we want to be. Do we want to be conquerors, or do we want to be the civilization we claimed to be when we first reached for the stars? He paused. The galaxy made us into warriors. We proved we can fight. Now we must prove we can build peace. Then we announce a plan, Hyunwoo decided. A clear path from occupation to independence. With conditions, yes. They must adopt fair governance. They must respect the rights of all species, including humans. They must maintain only defensive military forces, but we give them a path back to freedom. The announcement spread across occupied worlds within hours. Humans were not planning permanent conquest. They had a timeline. They had conditions for return of sovereignty. It was not immediate freedom, but it was hope. On Velkari Prime, former Emperor Thaknor heard the news in his house arrest. He had expected execution or lifelong imprisonment. Instead, the humans spoke of eventual freedom. He did not understand them. When the Velkari had power, they used it to dominate. When humans had power, they spoke of giving it back. Perhaps that was why humans had won. They fought not for power, but for principle. and that made them more dangerous than any empire. Because principles did not fade. Principles did not grow corrupt. Principles could reshape a galaxy. High Arbiter Veltharn, now stripped of his title and authority, sat alone in his chambers. He thought about that day when Minho had stood before the council asking for fairness. They had laughed. They had called humans primitive. They had thought courtesy was weakness. They had been so very wrong, and now the galaxy paid the price for their arrogance. But perhaps, Veltharn thought, perhaps something better could rise from the ashes of the old order, something where courtesy was respected, not mocked, where strength was measured not by cruelty but by wisdom. He could only hope that humanity remembered its own principles as it shaped this new galaxy. Because if humans forgot why they fought, they would become the very thing they had destroyed. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in centuries, it was a future being built on justice rather than domination. That had to mean something. General Do-hyun stood on the command deck of the orbital station above the planet Krell. Below him, the city lights sparkled in the darkness. It looked peaceful, but Do-hyun knew better. 3 resistance attacks had occurred this week. 7 human soldiers were dead. 12 more were wounded. His communication officer approached. "Sir, we have identified the location of the resistance cell. They are hiding in the industrial district. We can strike within the hour." Do-hyun studied the tactical display. The resistance fighters were using civilian buildings as cover. If they attacked with full force, civilians would die. But if they did nothing, more soldiers would be killed. "Prepare a surgical strike team. Minimum force. We go in quietly and capture them if possible. Sir, with respect, maybe it is time to send a stronger message. These attacks will continue unless we show them the cost of resistance." Do-hyun looked at the young officer. What message would that send? That we are no different from the species we overthrew? That human occupation means terror and brutality? He shook his head. "We maintain discipline. We follow rules of engagement, even when it is hard. Especially when it is hard." On the surface, Resistance leader Kralvin prepared his fighters for another attack. He was a former council military officer, decorated and respected. When humanity conquered Krell, he could not accept it. He would not live under human rule. "The supply convoy will pass through Sector 7, he told his team. "We hit them there, take what we can, and disappear into the tunnels." A young fighter named Soren spoke up. "Commander, the humans have been fair to the civilians. They pay for goods. They are rebuilding the factories they damaged. Maybe we should what?" Kralvin snapped. "Accept our conquerors? Bow to the species that destroyed our fleet? They killed thousands of our people in the war." "We killed thousands of theirs first," Soren said quietly. "We invaded their colony. We fired on their civilians. Is that not why this war started?" Kralvin felt old suddenly. Was the boy right? Had his own species created this situation? He pushed the thought away. "We have our orders. We are soldiers. We fight." The attack happened at midnight. Kralvin's team ambushed the supply convoy with explosives and small arms fire. 2 human vehicles exploded. Soldiers scattered, taking cover and returning fire. But the resistance fighters knew the terrain. They melted away into the darkness before human reinforcements arrived. Captain Seokjin was one of the soldiers in that convoy. He survived only because he had been in the rear vehicle. He ran forward to the burning trucks and found his squad leader dying in the wreckage. The man's last words were a message for his daughter back on Earth. Seokjin felt rage burn through him. These attacks had to stop. The resistance needed to learn what happened when they killed human soldiers. He requested permission to raid the industrial district with full combat force. General Do-hyun denied the request. "We do this the right way, Captain. Controlled operation, minimum civilian risk. With respect, sir, the right way is getting our people killed," Seokjin shouted, forgetting military protocol in his anger. Do-hyun did not reprimand him for the outburst. He understood. He had lost soldiers too. Friends. Good people who died far from home. "Captain, I need you to understand something. We are not here just to win. We are here to prove that humanity is better than what came before. If we abandon our principles in victory, then what did we win? We become the same tyrants we overthrew." Seokjin struggled with those words. His friend was dead. The man who saved his life during training, who taught him how to be a good soldier, was dead, and Do-hyun wanted him to show restraint. Dr. Sora arrived on Krell the next day with a different kind of team. Not soldiers, but engineers and medical personnel. She met with General Do-hyun in his office. The occupation is failing because we are treating it like a military problem, she said. It is a human problem. These people are angry, scared, and humiliated. Soldiers cannot fix that. We need to give them hope. What do you suggest? Truth and reconciliation councils, joint civilian governance, investment in infrastructure that benefits locals, not just us. And most importantly, we need to acknowledge that both sides committed wrongs in this war. Do-hyun was skeptical. Acknowledge our wrongs? We were the ones attacked first. And we responded by destroying their fleets, occupying their worlds, and reshaping their governments, Sora said. Yes, they started it. Yes, we were justified. But that does not mean innocent people did not suffer. Both sides have pain. Both sides need healing. The plan was radical. Release all war prisoners, establish joint human-alien councils on every occupied world. Create economic partnerships instead of exploitative occupation. Publicly acknowledge that war causes suffering on all sides, even when one side is in the right. Many military officers opposed it. We will look weak, they argued. The resistance will see it as victory, but Admiral Hyunwoo approved the plan. We look weak only if we measure strength by cruelty. I measure strength by the ability to remain just even when justice is difficult. Kralvin was captured 2 weeks later during another attack. But instead of a military prison, he was taken to a conference room. General Do-hyun sat across from him alone and unarmed. You can kill me, Kralvin said. I will not stop fighting. I do not want to kill you, Do-hyun said. I want you to understand why we are here. He showed Kralvin recordings. The Galactic Council debates where humans were mocked. The theft of colony worlds. The trade embargoes that caused human children to starve on frontier planets. The attack on New Busan that killed civilians. Your species called us primitive, Do-hyun said. You treated us like animals for 50 years. We asked for peace. We begged for fairness. We were patient beyond all reason. And you answered with theft and contempt. Tell me, what were we supposed to do? Keep accepting it forever? Kralvin watched the recordings in silence. He had not known about most of this. The council told its people that humans were aggressive, dangerous, and needed to be controlled. They never mentioned how humans had been treated for decades. I did not know, Kralvin said finally. Most people do not know. They only know their side of the story. That is why wars happen. That is why we must do better. Do-hyun leaned forward. I am not asking you to like us. I am asking you to understand us, and then help us build something better than what existed before. Why would I help you? Because the alternative is more fighting, more death, more hatred passing to the next generation. Your children will grow up hating human children. Human children will grow up hating your kind. And in 20 years we fight this war again. Do-hyun's voice softened. I am tired of war. Are you not tired too? Kralvin thought about Soren, the young fighter who questioned their attacks. He thought about his own children, living in occupied territory, learning to hate. Was that the future he wanted? What do you want from me? Help us create the truth councils. Tell your story. Let humans tell theirs. Let both sides hear what this war really cost, and then help us make sure it never happens again. It took time, months of difficult conversations, but slowly the resistance began to fade. Not because humans crushed it with force, but because they offered something more powerful than weapons. They offered understanding. Captain Seokjin attended one of the truth councils. He listened to Kralvin speak about losing friends in the human attacks, about the fear his children felt when human soldiers patrolled their streets, about the shame of surrender. Then Seokjin spoke about his squad leader dying in the convoy attack, about the message for a daughter who would never see her father again, about the anger and desire for revenge. When they finished, neither man felt better. The pain was still there, but something had shifted. They saw each other as people now, not just enemies. That was a start. Dr. Sora watched the council with quiet satisfaction. This was how peace was really built, not with treaties and signatures, but with difficult conversations and shared pain. The galaxy was learning that humans were not just capable of great violence, but also great compassion, and that would reshape the future more than any weapon ever could. 5 years had passed since the end of the war. New Horizons Station floated in neutral space, built by humans and aliens working together. It was massive, with sections designed for dozens of different species. At its center was the great assembly hall. Ambassador Minho walked through the station's main corridor. He was older now, his hair gray at the temples. But his step was steady and his eyes were alert. Today was important. Today the galaxy would see if peace could truly last. The great assembly hall was filled. Representatives from 200 species sat in curved rows. Some of these species had fought against humanity. Others had remained neutral. A few had supported Earth. Now they all gathered to create something new. Minho took his place at the center podium. Beside him sat Chancellor Veltharn. Yes, the same Veltharn who had mocked humans 5 years ago, but he was different now. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something like wisdom. 5 years ago, Minho began, his voice carrying through the hall. This galaxy was at war. Species fought for domination. The strong ruled the weak. Power was all that mattered. He paused. Today we gather to declare that age over. Today we create the new Galactic Assembly. The charter was displayed on screens throughout the hall. Minho read the key principles aloud. No species holds superior status. All are equal under galactic law, from the oldest civilization to the newest. Military aggression is forbidden except in self-defense. Trade must be fair and open to all. Diplomacy is required before any dispute can escalate to conflict. And every species, regardless of size or power, has equal voting rights. It was everything the old council was not. Everything humanity had asked for 50 years ago and been denied. Now it was the foundation of a new order. Veltharn stood to speak. His voice was quiet, humble. I must say something before we move forward. I was High Arbiter of the old council. I called humans primitive. I laughed when they asked for fairness. I approved the theft of their worlds. He looked directly at Minho. I was wrong. My arrogance nearly destroyed the galaxy. I speak now not as a leader, but as a cautionary tale. Let my mistakes teach you what happens when power makes you forget wisdom. He turned to address the full assembly. Humanity came to us in peace. We answered with contempt. They offered friendship. We answered with mockery. They sought justice. We answered with theft, and when they finally showed us their true strength, they could have destroyed us all. They had the power. They had the justification, but instead they chose to build this. He gestured around the hall. They chose to create something better. That is true civilization. That is what we should have been all along. The hall was silent. Then slowly delegates began to stand. One by one they rose to acknowledge Veltharn's words. It was not applause, but something more powerful. It was acceptance of truth. Fleet Admiral Hyunwoo watched from the gallery. He stood with Director Minji and Dr. Sora. Below them, the assembly voted. The charter passed unanimously. Every species agreed to the new order. Did you think we would see this day? Minji asked quietly. I hoped, Hyunwoo said. But hope and certainty are different things. We gambled everything on the belief that humans could win with strength and build with wisdom. It appears the gamble paid off. Dr. Sora smiled. The Black Horizon Project built the weapons that won the war. But this assembly, this peace, this is the weapon that will prevent the next war. Understanding is more powerful than any torpedo or lance. On the station's observation deck, young Officer Jiho stood looking out at space. He had been born during the war. His earliest memories were of his mother crying when news came of battles far away. He grew up in a galaxy at war and knew nothing else until now. Officer Jiho? A voice said behind him. He turned to find Ambassador Minho walking toward him. Jiho stood at attention and saluted. Ambassador, sir. At ease, Minho said with a gentle smile. I am not military, just an old diplomat who has seen too much. He joined Jiho at the viewing window. What are you thinking about? I was thinking about the war, sir. I was reading about the Battle of New Busan, about the siege of Valkyrie Prime, about all the people who died. Jiho hesitated. Was it worth it? All that death and destruction just to gain respect? Minho was quiet for a long moment. That is a question I ask myself every day. Every night when I close my eyes, I see the faces of the soldiers who never came home. I hear the cries of civilians caught in battles. I carry that weight always. Then why did we do it? Because we had no choice, Minho said. Not if we wanted to survive as a free people. The galaxy gave us two options. Accept permanent subjugation or fight for our right to exist as equals. We chose to fight. But here is what matters, Jiho. We did not fight for revenge. We did not fight for conquest. We fought for justice. And when we won, we did not become the tyrants we overthrew. We built this instead. He gestured toward the assembly hall visible through the window. Every species in there once believed humans were primitive, weak, beneath consideration. Now they know the truth. We are not primitive. We are not weak. But most importantly, we are not cruel. We proved that a species can be strong enough to win a war and wise enough to build the peace. Jiho watched ships from a dozen species docking at the station. Human ships alongside Velkari vessels. Former enemies working together. Do you think it will last? The peace? That depends on whether we remember the lessons, Minho said. The lesson is this: courtesy is not weakness. Diplomacy is not cowardice. Patience is not inability. These are choices made by civilized beings. When others mistake those choices for weakness, when they force you to abandon courtesy and show your strength, you must never forget why you were courteous in the first place. You must never become the thing you fought against. A young Velkari child ran past them, chasing a human child. They were playing some kind of game, laughing as they ran. Their parents followed behind, talking together like old friends. That is why it was worth it, Minho said softly. Not for us, for them. So they can grow up in a galaxy where species work together, instead of dominating each other, where a Velkari child and a human child can be friends without fear. Director Nari approached them, datapad in hand. She was Earth's first galactic trade commissioner, overseeing the new economic partnerships. Ambassador, the reports are in. Galactic trade has increased by 300% since the assembly was established. Earth has become the central trading hub. Every major trade route passes through human space now. Because we enforce fair trade, Minho said. No embargoes. No price manipulation. Every species gets equal treatment. That is what we fought for. A memorial stood in the center of New Horizon Station. It was a simple stone column with names carved into every surface. Thousands of names. Humans who died in the war, but also names from other species. Velkari, Throne, Mothrin, dozens of others. All the dead from all sides remembered together. The inscription at the base read, "To all who died in the War of Courtesy's End. May their sacrifice remind us that peace is not weakness, and diplomacy should never be mistaken for inability. We were given courtesy. We responded with contempt. We learned the price of arrogance. May we never forget Captain Seokjin stood at the memorial with Kralvin. The former enemies had become unlikely friends through the Truth Councils. They came here every year on the anniversary of the war's end. Do you think they would forgive us? Seokjin asked, touching a name on the stone. His squad leader. I think they would want us to make sure it never happens again, Kralvin said. That is the only forgiveness that matters. Not words, but action. A new signal came through the station's communication system. It was from deep space, far beyond known territory. A new species making first contact. The message was simple and direct. We are the Drine people. We have traveled far to meet you. We have heard stories of the Galactic Assembly. We have heard especially of the humans of Earth, whose reputation for fairness has reached even our distant home. We seek peaceful contact and hope to join your assembly. Ambassador Minho listened to the message with a slight smile. Earth's reputation had changed. No longer were humans seen as primitive or weak. They were known as the species that chose peace when they could, but fought with devastating effectiveness when they must. More importantly, they were known as the species that remained fair even in victory. Prepare a welcome delegation, Minho ordered. Show them what we have built. Show them what the galaxy can be when species work together. He turned back to the viewing window. Human ships patrolled the space around New Horizon Station, but 40% of the fleet had been decommissioned over 5 years. Warships converted to civilian use. Weapons factories turned to building infrastructure. The military was still strong, but smaller now. Strong enough to protect, but not to threaten. We did it, Director Minji said, joining him at the window. We reshaped the galaxy. The galaxy reshaped itself, Minho corrected. We simply gave it no choice. We showed them that their old ways led to destruction. We offered them a better path. They were wise enough to take it. Young Jiho saluted and left to return to his duties. He would be part of the generation that maintained this peace, not through war, but through the constant work of diplomacy, trade, and understanding. As the assembly session ended, delegates from 200 species mingled in the halls. Former enemies shared drinks.